Hey everybody, Flaming Rooster Barbecue here, and today we are going to do one of our favorite, if not our favorite, recipe we make around here, and that's smoked pork enchiladas. And this is a two-phase process. You can click on the link here for the end-to-end smoking instructions for the Flaming Rooster pork shoulder, pork butt. I'll touch on a little bit in this video, but really the intent of this video is to go through a little bit of the smoking process, but more importantly, the actual making of the enchiladas. So for the first time ever, we're going to have a guest on today, which is my beautiful wife. A lot of times when we cook, I'll do the grilling and the smoking outside, and then she'll finish it off here inside with sides and whatever else. So today she's going to do the enchiladas, and she's a much better cook than me, and so we'll see how that goes. But this is a great dish to make a lot of. This is, we're in the Corona lockdown right now, coronavirus, and so I can't find a whole. I usually like to get anywhere from like an 8 to a 12 pound pork butt. I couldn't find that, so what I do is two smaller. These are bone-in pork butts. They're about 8.5 pounds between both of them, so it'll actually cook a little bit faster. But if ideally you want to get one bigger one, so you don't have to break them up, but two of them is fine as well. Pork shoulder is great as well for this. You're going to do it low and slow at 225 with hickory or apple wood, and so it's just going to peel right off the bone, and you're going to shred it for the enchiladas. But this is a great dish to share with neighbors, make a dish for anything. But also one thing good about it, it's like we're going to have eight pounds of meat here. That would make a ton of enchiladas. You could do a lot more with this meat. You can actually freeze it and have it for later and make enchiladas later on, or whatever you want to do, pork carnita tacos, whatever that is. So the first step here was to get them. They've been out of the refrigerator about an hour, so they're still cold, but I put that rub on there overnight, and I used the Flaming Rooster barbecue pork rub. You can use whatever rub you want. Something with a little bit of pepper with quite a bit of salt for this is ideal. And then as far as heat, the Flaming Rooster recipe's got a bunch of cayenne in it, which is great for this. Most of that cooks out. And then once you get through the making of the enchilada process, there's plenty of that in there, but really good flavor. So use your favorite rub or the Flaming Rooster one, but that's the first step. Let it cover it, let it be in the refrigerator overnight. And now the smoker is getting ready. So once that thing gets to 225, we'll move these things onto the smoker. All right, so we've got the smoker ready to go. I've got the big green egg, or if you want Kamado Joe, you want to get to 225 degrees, even if you have a regular smoker, 225 degrees. And I prefer hickory wood, but you can use apple wood or cherry wood with that pork, but I think hickory turns out the best especially for this recipe. So I've already got my meat thermometer in there, and I am going to put these on here uncovered. These tools are great, by the way, if you don't have any of these to move pork and brisket around. But I'm going to put those on there like that. Get this dialed into 225 degrees. And I'm going to put my meat probe in the thickest part of the bigger piece of meat there. And ultimately, we want to get these things to 203 degrees. Technically, and you got to watch, you don't want it to be on that bone, because that bone's going to get hot and give you a bad reading. But 203 degrees. Technically, pork's done at 165, but I promise you, do the steps here. Leave it on there for 5 to 6 hours like this, and then it's probably going to be about 185 degrees or so. You're going to want to wrap them, and then you want to get it up to 203. And if you get it up to 203, all that fat's going to melt and render in there, and the flavor's going to be great. It's also going to just make it a lot more moist and not chewy at all, and it's just going to shred off with the fork. You'll see at the end of this thing. But that's it for this phase. So we're going to cook these for 6 hours. I'm not going to touch this thing for 6 hours. Get it dialed in at 225 degrees, and then we'll come back and wrap them. All right, they've been on about 5.5 hours, and the internal temp is 190. So I went ahead and wrapped them in foil. You can do foil or butcher paper, but at this point, all your smoke is already in there. So you really don't need to add any more smoke. If you want to cheat, you can actually put them in the oven now. And if you need to, pork is forgiving, so you can crank it up to about 275 at this point if you're running out of time. But I'm going to let those be just like that, covered, until the internal temperature is 203 degrees. And at that point, they're going to be done. So this last part on wrapping them, it really helps hold the moisture inside and doesn't let them get too burnt on the outside. and they'll just be perfect. So that should take about, I got 13 degrees left. That should probably take another, depends how long, but probably an hour to an hour and a half. And then once they're at 203, we'll pull them off and start letting them rest. Okay, it only took about an hour for it to get to 203, but they are done. So I pulled them off the grill, and you can see these things are perfect. You can see that bone right there, it's already poking out. So what you want to do is you want to get these as close to room temperature, not piping hot as possible. So just open them up and let them rest for, at least 30 minutes. And then we'll shred them. And then in the meantime, we're getting all the prep done for the enchiladas. All right, so while those are resting over there, it's time to start the enchilada process.
Okay guys, this is where I come in. So right here is just the ingredients plus the pork that will be for the filling. I'm doubling this recipe, so I kind of have a lot of ingredients, quantities, but the actual recipe with the correct quantities will be listed on the website. So the first thing we have is chopped onions, garlic, cumin, butter, cheese, sour cream, pecans, cream cheese, salt and pepper. This is just a hot sauce. You can use Tabasco. This is Louisiana hot sauce. This is a seasoning called Crazy Jane's that I know has been on the videos before, and this is chopped cilantro. So now we'll take this over to the stove and we will actually saute the onions and get the mixture going. Okay, this is the first steps in making the filling for the enchiladas. So you start with the butter, melt that down, and then you're gonna add the garlic and the onions. I add the garlic a little bit later so that I really give the onions plenty of time to sweat and kind of render down. And I'll let this saute for about 5 minutes. Okay, so while my onions are sauteing, I do this step. This recipe can be done with corn or flour tortillas, but the corn holds up a little better and we just like the taste better. So I just brown the tortillas or just warm them up a little bit. It makes them a little more easy when it comes to rolling them. So I literally just put it in a pan and I brown it, warm it up for about, I'd say about 30 seconds on each side. It calls for 8 to 10 flour tortillas or about 15 to 20 corn tortillas, kind of depending on the size of how big you roll them. So I'll show you more of that later, but I go ahead and do all the tortillas while my onions are sauteing. Okay, so I've been letting this onion saute for about 5 minutes. You can see it's just kind of getting translucent, a little golden on some of the parts. So now I will go ahead and add the garlic. And my fire is just on medium over here. You don't want to get it too high. You don't want to burn your garlic or it gets a little bit bitter. So I just have it down at medium low heat. And I'm going to let the garlic saute for about 2 minutes and finish up my tortillas. Okay, so that's been about 2 minutes that's been sauteing that garlic. So now we'll go ahead and start adding the rest of the ingredients. First thing is the cumin. Just mix that in. You kind of let it just get a little bit toasty in there. Mix with the butter and the onions and the garlic. Next we're going to add the sour cream and the cream cheese. Like I said, this is a double batch, so it's going to fill this pan up pretty good. But okay, so sour cream, and at this point I turn my heat off. And now the cream cheese, it's been softened a little bit, so it's going to mix in a lot easier. Okay, so that's pretty much mixed in, and you're just going to keep adding ingredients at this point. So I'm gonna go ahead and add my salt and my pepper, the Tabasco, and obviously you can add more or less of that depending on how hot you like it. I wish y'all could smell it in here. It smells incredible. I'll go ahead and add the pecans. It gives it such a good nutty flavor and crunch to the enchiladas. It's absolutely amazing. At this point, the Crazy Jane seasoning, I'm just gonna add a sprinkle in. At the end, I'll taste it and see if I think it needs anything else, any more seasoning. Okay. Now the cilantro. And then just a little bit of cheese. We didn't always add the cheese, but the cheese acts as a good binder and just gives it a little bit more flavor. And this part I just kind of eyeball, just sprinkle some in. I would say maybe 1/4 of a cup for a single batch maybe. And then the last step is to add the pork, and we'll show you that shortly.
All right, so this pork has been resting about 30 minutes, and I went ahead and deconstructed the one. And if you don't have these bear claws, it's a great investment. You can get these on Amazon for, I think, $10. If you don't have them, you can use a fork, but basically you want to just pull this apart. So here's the one that hasn't been done yet, and you'll see if you cook this right, this is the bone. That thing will just pull out just like that, like butter. And obviously you're not going to use the bone, but all you're going to do on these is you're going to twist with these claws, and that meat is literally going to shred right up. Now, you're going to have that fat layer, which obviously you don't want for the enchiladas, so you're going to have to pick that out. But you basically just shred this like so, and then we're going to dice it up a little bit more in the process, but just get it to about this consistency over here. And these bear claws, you can see it, this thing's just almost done, not just like that, but that's what you want to do. Let that cool down a little bit more, let those juices settle in, and then again, pick out the fat part, but that's what you're going to put in the filling now. Okay, so we have the shredded pork here, and it just needs to be, you know, a little bit of a finer chop. So I just kind of take, it's literally, I could use a butter knife, this is so tender, and just make it a little bit smaller bite-sized pieces, and just kind of shred it as I go. And it calls for about 4 cups per recipe. So I'll finish this and we'll add it to the filling mixture. Okay, so I've transferred the filling mixture from the skillet into a bowl, and so now I'll add the pork and I'll just mix it in so it's evenly combined. At Thanksgiving, we make the same recipe with the smoked turkey, leftover smoked turkey. We've done it with smoked chicken before. Anything, you know, that has that smoked flavor. I'm sure the brisket would be amazing. We might try that next week. But anything that kind of has that smoked flavor is absolutely incredible. So I'll just finish combining this and then we'll start filling the tortillas. Okay, the next step is filling the tortillas. So this is a 2 tablespoon measure. I feel like it takes about 2.5, 3 tablespoons. So I just kind of do an overflowing 2 tablespoon measure. Just take it, evenly spread it across the tortilla. And I've already sprayed my pan here with a non-stick spray. Then I just take it and I roll it pretty tight. And then I put it in there. Do the same thing, just kind of take an overflowing, it's about, I would say about 3 tablespoons. Even it out in there. And I take and I just roll it. There's no science to this, make them as thick as you want. It's just, you know, about 3 tablespoons keeps it so that it stays sealed and that it doesn't bust open when it's cooking. There you go, next we'll make the sauce. Okay, for this last step, we're gonna make the sauce to pour over the enchiladas. This is cream of chicken soup,
sour cream, and milk. I'm going to add these 3 ingredients first and go ahead and mix. I use a whisk just to get it all evenly incorporated. And then we'll add the other ingredients in. I just whip this till it's nice and smooth. Doesn't take very long there. And then I'll go ahead and add the rest of our ingredients. This is green chilies. We use mild. Chopped cilantro. Shredded cheese. And then a little bit of salt and pepper. I'll get this nice and mixed. And then we'll pour it over our enchiladas. Okay, here's our last step. Now typically we would bake these in a 9x13 pan, but it's just Jeff and I eating these tonight, so I just did a smaller batch. But typically it's 9x13. I like to leave just a little bit of room in between each one so that when I pour that sauce over, it can get in between each enchilada. And then you're just gonna spoon on the sauce over each one. Liberally, don't be stingy here. And then we'll top each one with a little bit of cheese. You're gonna bake these at 350 degrees for about 25-30 minutes total. After about 15 or 20 minutes, you're gonna uncover them. So you're gonna cover them with foil to start, bake for about 15-20 minutes, and then uncover them for the rest of the time. And this is just kind of a light little sprinkle of cheese on top. There's plenty of cheese in it, it just makes it prettier once it's cooked. There you have it. All right, these will go in the oven. Okay, timer's gone off. It's been about 17 minutes or so. Now we're just gonna uncover it. Starting to look good. And then we'll keep it going for about another 10-15 minutes and check it. Okay, enchiladas are done. We cooked them for about 30 minutes total, and at the end I just put broil on for about 2 minutes just to kind of really, brown up that cheese and make it good. So that's it, easy as that. We sometimes serve cilantro lime rice with this on the side, a green salad, but there you go. This is the star of the night.
And as we said earlier, if you have leftover turkey from Thanksgiving, we do these with turkey. If you've got smoked chicken, it's great with smoked chicken. So really any protein you want, but those are really the 3: smoked chicken, smoked turkey, and then smoked pork. So bon appetit.